Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gustavo Troisi, Vice President ANDAF, National Association of Administrative and Financial Director. Thank you for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to this ANDAF event dedicated to a topic that is both highly relevant and increasingly strategic for companies investing in the United States. When we talk about the United States, we are not simply referring to a large market. We are referring to a dynamic ecosystem where innovation, capital, regulation, and competition interact at a speed and scale that is often unmatched globally. For many Italian companies, but not Italians, the United States represents a natural step in their growth journey. But entering the United States market is not just a matter of ambition. It's a matter of preparation, structure, and execution discipline. This exactly we title today events from strategy to execution. We are fortunate to have with us an outstanding group of speakers and professionals who bring direct hands-on experience supporting companies through this path. Their perspectives will help us move beyond theory and focus on what really matters. Make investment work in practice. Thank you, and I wish you all a very insightful and inspiring session. And now I hand over to Paolo Somano, saying thank you to all the speakers. They are excellent, best practice. Thank you very much.
Welcome to all, and thank you, Gustavo, for the introduction. During this webinar, we will stay together for about 1 hour, and the goal of today's session is to give some practical information and to CFO on what the CFO need to know before investing in the United States. So to know where are the main pitfalls that could arise from strategy to execution. And during this webinar, we will have three different perspectives. So the advisory view, the US state assessing the financial investment, and the real CFO expertise on field. So just a couple information. So we will not have the Q&A section in order to be more focused on information that we will share share during the webinar. So you can find in chat the mail where you can write some eventually question that could be addressed later on this day. So as we have several really things to share with you, and I will hand it over to Andrea Fantozzi that will highlight the mainly risk of execution and how to manage them. Andrea.
Thank you, Paolo. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Gustavo. My name is Andrea Fantozzi. I'm a partner at Prager Metis. It's an international business advisory firm. And today is a great day here in Florida. I know there are people connected from different parts of the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Is everybody seeing my monitor? If you have an issue, great. So what I like, what Paolo Somano mentioned, the perspective that I'm going to share with you is from a CPA, an advisor for foreign entities. I've been doing this for the last 20 years, and I can share some of the practical aspects and experience that I had with my clients. Particularly today, the audience is CFOs of foreign entity. They're contemplating, they're planning to enter into the US market. First of all, let me thank you, ANDAF, the Italian National Association of CFOs and Controllers. They're giving me this opportunity to presenting today. Also, I want to thank our states from CASE. They will give you an insight of the incentive and how to approach to them to be better efficient and getting most out of the opportunities that they can, states level and federal level can offer you. So let's start briefly on what does the United States market represent for foreign entities. So United States is a really, really large market, scalable, but you need to be organized, and it rewards organization and planning ahead of time. And also the United States combines, and there are real opportunities for company to scale this market through different level of financing from banks, from venture capital, public markets, when are more sophisticated private equities. So therefore, there are high development business infrastructure and talent pools. You have to consider the United States has different 4 time zones, and the West Coast has a different infrastructure from the East Coast or the Midwest, and states can indicate that very, very in details. Now, what the states do, and that is very interesting for this with the United States, they compete each other to attract foreign investments. You have credits and opportunities at federal level, but also you have the states that they assist individually, each individual CFOs of their companies to get the most out of the opportunities. So therefore, it's important, and I'm going to stress this concept many times throughout my presentation, to be prepared and to plan ahead for the opportunities ahead of you. At the same time, the US, which is a federal state, it's a very fragmented regulation at federal, state, even local. So I lived many years in New York, and as you can imagine, the level of taxation in the United States, you can have at the federal level, you have a state in New York, but also you have in New York City, if your business, your home is located in the 5 boroughs in New York City. And so that's something that you need to consider, which I will discuss in a slide later. And also there is a strong enforcement around tax, labor, and governance. Therefore, it's important to know what you're dealing with, and that's its important role of the advisors. The advisors are assisting the CFOs at the very beginning of the process of coming to the US. That could be from immigration attorneys or a corporate attorney, and then the CPA, the professional that is as aspects of taxation and financial statements reporting. So now what happens is the common assumptions that non-US companies that I've seen throughout my career is that they tend to replicate the home country operating model. So what they say is, okay, what is good to do, for example, in Europe, that I'm gonna replicate it down in United States. That can create inefficiencies. At the beginning, probably can work because you have your local office that's very focused on sales growth, will solve initially the inefficiency. But then down the road, when your business start growing, then you have this gap from the headquarter and your subsidiary. So that's important that the CFO, which is an architect and also a facilitator of the operations, needs to take in consideration with his counterpart in the US that most of the times when I've seen a lot of middle market companies, small companies, they have a general manager that is more interested in commercial activities. So because they need to sell, they need to take care of their customers, they need to find a warehouse, and they don't have the time to basically operate more efficiently and in line with the HQ expectations. And then also what happens is that there is operating autonomy of the US subsidiary grows very faster than oversight. And that can create issues and problems if there are no controls in place and if there are a framework well-defined, a responsibility defined at the HQ level. And the CFO in this case has a very important responsibility on that it needs to kind of define in the governance with the lawyers and with the advisors what are the right step and process to check the operations of the people being sent over to United States. So the risk in this case, if those activities are not in place, those checks and bounds are not in place, risk accumulates little by little with their operation, and then sometimes can erupt in fraud, or can erupt in compliance issue from tax and Department of Labor. And that is something that creates and delays the process of sustainability of the subsidiary and independence process from the HQ level. So what I mentioned to you earlier, the challenge the CFO encounter when entering the US market is the misalignment from headquarters and the US operation. So for example, budgets are approved in headquarters at HQ, but then those budgets are not reflected in operations of the general managers, or the subsidiary expand rapidly headcount in different states, and they completely forgot to discuss it with the immigration attorney, or for the expat, or for Department of Labor attorneys, because then there are different rules that each state adopts, and that's the particular of the U.S. market. You need to understand that it's always a federated country, and every single state has different rules. Same for taxation. So the reporting structure sometimes also are incomplete. I had an example, for example, on a case that a subsidiary had different, they were not adopting the US GAAP when they were doing the reporting, but they were adopting the same accounting process and the same accounting language of the headquarters. And that will create issues when you prepare the tax returns for compliance, which the tax returns are based on the US GAAP. So those and also they can have issues with when the headquarters requires an audit or a review their operations for financial statements reporting, and there are different levels of accounting processes, because sometimes happen that the person that is in charge of subsidiary does not have developed those skills for the reporting, because it's focused more on commercial sides of the business. So then there are also the budget, sometimes not even taking care of the budget at the lower level. So what happens in the second part, the process of misalignment is reflected because the governance of the company at the early stage particularly gets pushed away and said, okay, let's keep this at a minimum, because obviously I am investing a lot of funds into the country, and I have the general manager there, I need to take care of, I have many issues on my plate that I got to deliver to the CEO. And therefore, the governance, the clarity of the competencies, the process of the control, the risk mitigations, segregation of duties, that's get it done down the road. And most of the times they delegate it to the advisors, which they are considered like, let's say, in quotes, they want to become their own CFO, which that is the wrong decision, because obviously the advisors that needs to be used, they need to report and work in line with the expectations of the CFOs at headquarters that defines the framework and the business plan for them and what are the activities. So sometimes you have a decision and no segregation of duties, bank authorities, vendor approval, concentrating in one role. And I had, unfortunately, experience where there were cases that you have your general manager subsidiary that enter an agreement of a significant supplier contract that without informing the board, not even the CFOs. That created tensions, that created stress on the cash flow, and the problems in managing the subsidiary, and the level of trust obviously get diminished at that point. Or in a case that without segregation of duties, that could happen, that the person in a subsidiary has a lot of concentrated powers in collecting payments, making payments, accounts receivable management, and therefore risk that could be fraudulent activities that are discovered much later, because then the CFO and HQ is dealing with a lot of issues, and the kind of the segregation and the controls, they were lacking because there was also no governance. So that is important to keep in mind, that the governance in the US for this reason is important, because don't forget, if you have everything laid out, you have your advisors, you have a financial reporting that makes sense, then you can go to the States and you can be a reliable company, an independent company that is assisting you for getting out most of the opportunities. Even with the banks, that is important role. So then the compliance, as I said, it's another aspect, the third pitfall that I listed in my presentation. Why is that? Because it's not just compliance and tax, compliance at Department of Labor, compliance with the rules of locality for environmental impact, and or immigration, which is very important, especially when you transfer your people from overseas into the US. You need to keep in mind of the timing on getting visas, the supporting documentation behind that. I'm not an immigration lawyer, but that is an experience that I've seen. But also, you need to consider the level of the taxation of the states. They are different, and the taxes corporation differently from Florida, different from New York or from California. So those aspects that you need to take in effect on your business plan and your planning come in the US, which then is reflected if you get penalties in your operations, or if you have also what happens many times, the companies that sell retailers or wholesales that sell in different states, they monitor the sales tax connection of the state income tax nexus, but then they forgot to register with the Secretary of State. So at that point, they waive the rights with the rights with the suppliers and the customers. So lawyers and the CPA need to work together, and they need to be able to communicate to each other and report back to the subsidiary, to the CFOs, and they can then mitigate those risks. And also then, because when it comes to international aspects and compliance, it's very complicated. I'm telling you right off the bat, and there are a lot of penalties. And IRS and states, they are very proactive, especially when it comes to sales tax, to be sure that their compliance is done properly, timely, and accurately. So that is something that always gets sometimes oversight. There is a focus primarily on that, and then it gets forgotten the other aspect of it. And so all out of these three different pitfalls, the CFOs, which are the same level of technical skills of between different countries, but the differences that I've seen is that based on the business environments where they operate. What I've seen, the non-US model, they usually emphasizes on more centralized control and less compliance after the fact. Why is that? Because probably they do not operate in a market where there are three different levels of, for example, taxation, federal, state, and local. So they have just, for example, Italy, pick Italy as a country, they have only national authorities, national level. You don't have a sales tax that are divided in different states and localities, but you have the VAT that's in Italy, the rest of the Europe. So for that, when they translate the US CFO model, aspects are different. So that's why what I was saying before, that the tend to duplicate the operating model, that's the case. So in the US CFO model, it's usually he knows that you need to create a credible counterpart to speak with state authorities, investor, regulatory bodies. So therefore, they get used to that. There are more defining rules and responsibilities, and they have a different approach with their advisors. So they understand the fact that you need to have a lawyer for dealing with banks, you need to have a lawyer for corporate M&A, you need to have a lawyer for Department of Labor, because if you operate in one state versus another, there could be different issues related to how to manage your workforce and comes disability and etc. So for that, the CFO overseas needs to take in consideration that they needs to be assisted by their advisors. And now talking of what I do for living and what I've been doing for more than 20 years, the CPA is basically it works together with the CFO and a system on executing technically and ensure the compliance get done properly. So operational structure and the CFO design the governance, align strategy with execution. The CPA needs to do it. Sometimes happened in the past that the CPA basically was doing the role of the CFO, which is wrong, or taking care of the governance. And we are an advisor at the end of the day that we need to respond to our clients. So it's important prior coming to US, you need to have qualified advisors that support you and works with you, CFO, in when you define your operations. And for non-US companies, also, don't forget the CPAs works on translation international European frameworks into US GAAP. So it's important to have the language of your financial reporting in line what is used in the United States. There are IFRS reporting, but for example, many banks they want to see the financial statements in US GAAP, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Then they need to manage the federal, state, and local tax complexity. That is not just the corporate income tax. There is a sales use tax, property tax, for example, and then you create all the package to go to the states with the CFO with a business plan done properly in accordance to the rules and regulation in the United States, and now you go to states. And states, they will mention this to you. They're gonna see you more a credible party, because obviously they need to provide financing and credits and opportunities. There are plenty of for non-US companies they want to create jobs in the United States. There are plenty available, even including with the recent OBBA tax act that was issued in July by our president. So that are waiting for companies that invest in the United States and create particularly jobs. And to conclude, so at the end of the day, it's that the US does not penalize lack of ambition. It penalizes the lack of structure. So you have to come with this in mind. I hope that's the message that's clear and loud for you. The US is not an inherent risk. It's an opportunity. It's a scalable, large, an opportunity. You need to know the market. You need to add the plan accordingly. And with the CFO as an important role as a facilitator and also as an architect of this business successful process of entering the US market. And obviously, I'm available for questions, and I think I am right in the timing, and I go back to Paolo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. You are perfectly on time, and a very dense intervention with the highly relevant and practical insight, really. And before moving into the US stage panel, we have to do just a framing of the context of the US state. And so Marine Leroux is joining us in her capacity as a representative of CASE, the Council of American States in Europe. So Marine.
Thank you, Paolo. Thanks to the UNDAF team as well, Gustavo, Andrea. Thank you for the opportunity for having us today. I think this is a extremely insightful session today for companies looking at expanding to the US. So let me take a couple of minutes to introduce the Council of American States in Europe. So we do support companies like yours in turning a US expansion strategy into a concrete plan. And the simple question I have for you is, when you consider entering the US, how do you decide where to go? And because that's one of the most common pitfalls, we say, and we see it, usually companies treating the US as a single market. And in reality, you are choosing between 50 different operating environments, each with different talent availability, market access, and regulatory frameworks, as we discussed before. And getting that decision wrong can have a direct impact on your P&L, on your timeline, and of course on your return on investment. And that's where we come in as a non-profit association. We are headquartered in Brussels, and we have a board member across the UK, Italy, and France, and myself sitting in the UK. And we do represent 20 US states, as you can see on the background. And we act as a neutral platform connecting companies with the right state level representative, all based in Europe. They all have an office in Europe. And by the way of introduction, so myself, I represent the state of New York, so the Economic Development Agency for the state of New York, with my colleague Emma today on the call. So leading the strategy for the state from London, but also serving as the vice president of CASE. And we work closely with European companies across different sectors of activity, life sciences, advanced manufacturing, technology, and really supporting the companies through the practical realities of any location, as we have today. And the US remains the largest destination globally for foreign direct investment. I think from Europe, we have over 300 billion investment, and Europe continues to be the leading investor. And the key point for you as a decision maker is the investment decision in the US are also driven at the state level. And each state offers a different combination of cost of operation, access to talent, industry ecosystems, and supply chains. And lastly, I say lastly, because financial incentives, because you don't go to invest in the US for the incentives you may have. And that's an important point for companies. And importantly, states are actively competing for your investment. And so we act as the entry point into that competitive landscape. And in practical terms, we can help you evaluate and compare locations based on your business model, de-risk as well your market entry strategy, accelerate your potential timelines by connecting you with the right partners, and access the support from site selection, as we mentioned, to incentives. All of this is confidential, free of charge, and tailored to your project. Because ultimately, a successful US expansion is not just about market access, but it's about making the right structural decisions early, that to optimize the costs, to mitigate the risks we mentioned before, and enable your company to grow. So with that in mind, I will encourage you to listen carefully the next speakers. You will hear, direct perspective from the US states, and each offering a different value proposition depending on your strategic priorities. So thank you, and I'm pleased to hand over to our CASE member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Marine. That really give us the actual framework that also Andrea described, but you mentioned also all the situation from a little bit state perspective. So let's now move across the different state that we have today, and then we will start with New York. So Emma Cipollari.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can hear me well and you can see my screen.
Not yet your screen, Emma.
Okay, it should be charging. It's not. Okay, let me try again. Okay. Now it should be okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Paolo, for the introduction. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Marine. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emma Cipollari, and I am the Southern Europe Director for Empire State Development, which is the Economic Development Agency of the state of New York. So let me start with a very quick overview, I promise, of the state I represent, because I know that when people hear New York, they often think about New York City, so Manhattan, skyscrapers, a global hub, yes, but mainly associated with finance and tech. However, I can guarantee that there is much more to it. So I have put a little map here. And as you can see, New York State is pretty large, actually, and is made up of 10 highly diverse regions, each with its own industry clusters, ranging from biotech and life sciences to food and beverage, from semiconductors to renewable energy. So yeah, as Maureen mentioned, every state has a whole ecosystem, so it's really worth to discover what every state has to offer. And this level of diversification that we have in the state of New York is also driven by the scale of the state itself. So as you can see, New York State is the fourth largest state in the US by population, with over 20 million people that we have to feed, to cure, and employ. And it ranks third in the US by GDP, with an economy of $2.4 trillion. Which is almost the same of Italy, so it's really impressive. So yeah, I think what really makes New York unique is this combination of scale, diversity, and access, which is access to capital, but also access to talent and access to one of the largest consumer markets in the world. Having said that, I would like to briefly show you what Empire State Development can do for you and your company if you're considering setting up operations in New York State. As Maureen mentioned, we support international investors with a set of confidential and free of charge services that include market and regulatory information, site selection guidance, ecosystem connection with university, utilities, and incentive programs. So I know that this point is very important for companies, and I have put here a list of some of the incentives and tax advantages that we offer to New York manufacturers, but we have also programs for R&D companies. So yeah, we have a few incentives that I would be happy to explain you more in detail in a private conversation. But what is really important here is that these incentives are not automatic. So this is a support that is not automatically given to companies that are setting up operations in New York. So I have listed a few points here on how a company can unlock this support in practice. So I have highlighted three key points that are crucial for when engaging with Empire State Development. So the first is to understand our mission as an economic development agency, and then understand our project criteria. So every form of support is evaluated around two key points, which is jobs creation and capital investment. That's our mission as an economic development agency. So if you understand these crucial points, from a CFO perspective, it is essential that you come with a clear and credible investment plan. And here you can use service providers such as CPAs that can help you with that. So this is really what allows us to properly evaluate your project and define the level of support that can be mobilized. Second point, it is crucial to engage early with us. So sometimes companies make their location decision before engaging with us, and once they have chosen, they speak with us. But yeah, I think it's can really provide you some value added if you engage with us early, as soon as you have an investment plan. And third point, and I think that Marina mentioned this also, so make strategic decisions first, incentives come later. So incentives are important, I understand that, but they should not be the main driver of your investment in the US. So it is much more effective to start from your real decision drivers, such as, I don't know, proximity to customers operating costs, logistics, ecosystem, industrial clusters. So these are really the elements that should guide your decision. And once those elements are clear, Empire State Development can prepare a set of incentives for you that will support you and that will help you, but incentives should not be the main decision drivers. And I'm saying that because I have had several conversations with companies that engage with us, and they're, okay, so what incentives can you offer us? So yeah, I'm aware that I don't have much more time, but I hope this was clear. And if you have an investment plan in the US in the medium to short term, I would be happy to have a conversation with you.
Thank you, Emma. And
Thank
then
you.
let's move from New York to Florida. Anik, please.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Emma. Thank you to all the organizer. So, do you see my screen? Oh, this is the end. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. So my name is Anik Briganti. I'm representing the state of Florida in Italy in our Milan office. We have 17 offices around the world. So we have one in Japan, one in Germany, one in the Benelux, et cetera, et cetera. So depending on where you're based in the world, you can go on our website, select Florida, or contact me and I put you in contact with our office in your country. So I will basically, I have very few slides, but we'll just explain 2 points. I have few minutes. The first point is why selecting Florida. Of course, it will depend, again, as Emma and Marine mentioned, on your important decision elements. If you need to be closer to your providers or to your client space, or depending on a partnership you found somewhere in any of the US states, et cetera, et cetera. But Florida, what are the global economic elements which makes this state, in our opinion, quite sure? And then secondly, what are the sectors that we try to draw the red carpet to? So Florida is one of the top global economy. It's 1.73 trillion, which corresponds to 2/3 of Italy or France, a third of the German economy. It's the first state in terms of GDP growth. So not only it's a strong economy, but it keeps growing over the years. We have a particularly welcoming business tax environment. And I will explain on the other slide that we are the number 5 at the federal level. We are logistically interestingly located close to Latin America. So we are called America's hub because of our location in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. Of course, we have easy access with our different ports to Latin America. In terms of education in the United States, we've been number 1 for high education over the past 7 years. We have a lot of trained young people going out of our universities, but we also attract a lot of wealthy people and a lot of population migration in general, being number 1 in the US territory. We evaluate that we have over 1,200 people entering the state every single day. So the population is 23 million inhabitants, so third states after California and Texas, and keeps growing and attracting a lot of people, keeping an unemployment rate very low, because even though because it's a very dynamic economy in general. This is just visually to show you the logistic and export advantages. So it's a peninsula like Italy with a lot of different ports. We have 16 deep water seaports, which is interesting at the time of where are your raw material coming from, or a few of your assembling parts coming from around the world. We have about 21 commercial airports. 4 of them are international. You probably know Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale, with direct connections with Europe. Different spaceports and space territories with a lot of different types of incentives for that particular industry, but I'm talking about it later. I think our main strength in Florida is the tax competitiveness index. Among the whole United States, we are number 5 after Wyoming and South Dakota, in the middle here of nowhere. Take into account that 75% of the US population is on this part of the United States, on the eastern part. Number 3 is Alaska, number 4 is New Hampshire, and number 5 is Florida in terms of global tax competitiveness. So taking all the taxes into account. I just showed on the left side part of the taxes, so the most important ones, the corporate tax. So as Andrea mentioned, in the United States, you have different level of taxes, reason why you really need a CPA. It's kind of a labyrinth and very complicated. So wherever you go, you will pay the 21% of your corporate income to the federal state, and then you will pay between 0 and 12% to the state, and then sometimes, very often, between 1 and 3 at the local level. So it adds up and makes things not only complicated, but sometimes very expensive too. Like California, and I'm mentioning that state because it's not among the case states and they don't have a representation in Europe, but California can be as expensive as Italy in terms of taxes. Florida, but I think it's true with all the other states because it's a federal policy since the last administrations, not only this one, but the former ones. We try to attract production and manufacturing into the US territory. So whatever you are planning to produce or willing to manufacture in the United States, in almost every single state, you will be quite helped to do that. For the state of Florida, our priorities for the next 3 years are the following. So apart from the 4 cross-cutting targets industry, that is to say, as I mentioned, manufacturing, but I think it's the case of most of the states. We also really promote and welcome research and development activities, can put you in contact with the different universities, soft landing places within the universities on the state of Florida, logistic and corporate headquarters. And this is for all types of sectors. Now, we do have some sectors that we want to prioritize because they are either very strong in the state or very growing quite actively in the States. So, of course, aerospace and aviation, you probably know about the Kennedy Space Centers and the Cape Canaveral, where most of the launches are done. So a strong aerospace and aviation industry, but also energy security, information technologies, the maritime sectors with all the ports we have. I forgot to mention something important for the Italian audience is that 2 years ago, our governor, De Santis, came to Italy, met different people, and in the context of this leadership mission, the Florida Port Council signed an MOU with Asso Logistica and Asso Porti, and they're going on with intensive talks and working groups since then between the ports of Florida and the ports of Italy. And they just had their third working group last week in Miami. We also promote the military and defense industry. We have 21 military centers in the state, a lot of population and veterans in terms of workforce, and especially for Italians, maybe for Japanese or Germans, the veterans are in pension at 35 years, so quite young. And these tends to be hard workers and reliable and loyal people who stay a bit longer than the average people in the US, because in terms of employments, that will be also a chapter you need to face when you enter the United States, with a lot of turnover within the people. We also promote actively life science, financial services, and ag tech. And I think I'm on time, I hope.
Yeah, a little bit, but really, we can.
Yes, I'm done. So I'm done. You have my contact details, and I guess the organizer will send the different states contact details for those who has a specific interest in our state. So I'm available for any one of you connected today or later on, because it will be recorded. And again, our services are free of charge and confidential. Thank you.
Yannick. Thank you, Yannick. And I'll turn now to Missouri. Antonella.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So let me know when you can see my screen. Is it okay for you guys? Is okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So, hi everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Antonella Ventimiglia, and I represent the state of Missouri as Deputy Director for France and Southern Europe. So, in addition to what everybody's shared today, I think that Missouri is a state that not a lot of people know. So, I'm gonna make like a brief presentation for you to understand what is our state. So, let me start with a quick snapshot about Missouri. If there's one thing to remember, is that Missouri is really at the center of everything when it comes to the US. So you can see we're like in the heart of the US. Because of its central location, companies based in Missouri can reach the West Coast, the East Coast, as well as Canada and Mexico within 2 days by truck. So from a logistics point of view, it can be extremely efficient. In addition, you can see we got a very rich ecosystem of companies. This is just some of the companies we have right now, because it's a number that keeps growing. The state has about 6.2 million people, which gives you a good balance, large enough to support business growth, but is still very accessible and manageable. You also have a strong industrial hubs like St. Louis, Kansas City, and Springfield. Actually, Springfield, there's a lot of manufacturing going on, along with the Mississippi River, which together support logistics and manufacturing. So overall, Missouri is very competitive in sectors like advanced manufacturing, energy storage, life science, and food and beverage production. Also, we got a very interesting and growing agriculture sector with ag tech and also food production, like I mentioned. And is already home to big companies, as you could see. So, to summarize it, Missouri is not just a location; it's also an execution platform to enter the U.S. market. So, expanding into the US. So, looking Missouri from a perspective of a CFO, Missouri is about predictability and execution. It's a place where you can plan your investment clearly and move forward without unnecessary complexity. Since we know that we can be an state that is in the middle of the US and there's some companies that sometimes they don't have that much information, we try to make our process very simple. So first of all, we got easy regulation process. Compared to other locations, the process is straightforward, which means like fewer delays, a faster path to getting your operations up and running. Then we got an amazing infrastructure when it comes to everything in highways, rail, air connections, and river transport. So whether you're producing or distributing, everything is well connected. Third, we got a very strong fiscal stability. The state has the longest standing AAA credit rating, which basically means it's financially reliable. This means that incentives are going to be stable over time. Then we got also incentives and tax advantages as other states, but I will definitely say that for Missouri is all about the project. It's all about the sector, so it's something that you have to like look with us first before we offer you our package. Also, Missouri has one of the lowest corporate income taxes rates among other US states. So overall, it can be very competitive. And finally, talent. We're very strong when it comes to talent. Missouri has a workforce of around 3 million people with a very competitive cost structure. So we're one of the cheapest states when it comes to labor. But that does not mean that the quality of the workers are not good, because we got like an amazing network of universities. And for example, for our profiles of engineering and like master's degrees, we're very strong. We got a specific program that is very interesting for companies in all the sectors that I mentioned previously, Missouri One Star program, which helps companies directly with recruitment, training, and onboarding. So whether you're starting from scratch, we can help you set up everything in connection with the universities and the training centers. So you got already people ready to work in your companies if you have any kind of a specific needs or like talent that you need to develop. So finally, I think that in addition to what you see with other states, everything is pretty straightforward. For us, it will be very simple. Book a meeting. Contact Missouri and we will schedule a personalized assessment for your project to really define next steps. Missouri have a very close network with private and the public sector. So what we do once we understand your project is try to maximize your opportunities in the state. But I will also be very open, like talk with other states so you know which is the best market for you. As Marie mentioned, maybe sometimes you focus a lot of incentives, but you don't realize the quality and the possibilities a state like Missouri has to offer. Thank you so much, and you got like my contact information.
Paula, you're mute.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Luca. Thank you, Antonella. So we are going to close the states panel. So let's hear from Virginia Caitlin.
All right, thank you. Looks like I have exactly 5 minutes, so I will go as fast as possible. Sharing my screen now. Can you please let me know if you are seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just start the presentation and I don't know how I can up. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to present to the state of Virginia today. I'm Caitlin Champion. I'm a senior FDI manager for the state of Virginia out of our European headquarters, which is in Munich, Germany. We also have official state entities located in Seoul, Tokyo, and Taipei. A lot of our colleagues here and who are not present today, like we've mentioned, we are all over the world. But I wanted to highlight the fact that we are one of the few states who are an official entity with direct ties to the US and not working with contracts, maybe supporting multiple states at once. So all of our efforts are 100% dedicated to the state of Virginia. Maybe a little background on Virginia, because I think most people heard the song West Virginia, like Country Roads, West Virginia, Take Me Home. That is not us, but that is what we are most somehow known for. The state of Virginia, as you can see on this map, is centrally located on the eastern seaboard. So this gives us perfect equidistance from the Northeast, which is the most densely populated part of the nation, and the Southeast, which is the fastest growing part of the nation. We also have the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., right in our backyard. This gives us direct access to the country's most important federal and institutional stakeholders. Washington Dulles International. If you've been through this airport, you've actually already been to Virginia. It's in Fairfax, Virginia. This airport offers global direct access to all continents and is great for connectivity, getting to and from Asia, Europe, a huge hub for Africa as well, and South America. In terms of education, the state does rank very high. It's number one in education for the South, and the Metro Washington, D.C. area, which we call Northern Virginia or NOVA, has a population where at least 51% has a bachelor's degree or higher, classing it well ahead of traditionally academic hubs like the Boston, Jersey area or the Bay Area. In terms of industries, it's a state that has a lot going on for it. It's very multi-sectorial. There's not really one major industry, but if I had to pick three to really focus on, I would say data centers, defense, and biotechnology. I'll touch more on that in a second, but I just wanted to go back to location being one of the largest assets that we sell as, again, central location. We're reaching 50% of the US population in a day's drive. And the Port of Virginia on the East Coast, the most automated port on this coast, is serving more inland market by rail than any of the other ports. Truck to rail turnaround time is currently averaging about 40 minutes. So here's kind of an illustration of the various industries and nations that we have present. These are global firms spanning several sectors, but again, I will go back to mainly data center, defense, and biotech. So the state of Virginia is actually the largest data center market in the world. In terms of capacity in the US, we are currently at 2,500 megawatts. The next largest market in the US is at 500 megawatts, just to give a picture of the contrast in what we have going on. This is mainly due to a lot of the security federal players present in the state. It's created this momentum of a know-how in tech and data that we don't really see an end to. Most of them are concentrated on the northern part of the state here, but we've seen quite a bit of trickle down towards the state capital, Richmond, and even in very rural areas or down by the ports. Defense, we are the nation's hub for defense. A lot of the corporate headquarters, governmental affairs will be up here near Washington, D.C. A lot of the manufacturing and operational activity will be down by the Port of Virginia. We have every branch of the armed services has an installation here by the ports. It's the North American headquarters of NATO. It's the largest naval base in the world. We also host two NASA presences here. We have the Wallops launch facility and NASA Langley, which is dedicated to advanced materials research. Lastly, just touch on biotech really quickly. We are the third biotech hub in the nation after the Boston-Jersey corridor and the Bay Area. A lot of this is thanks to us being the number one recipient of funding from the National Institute of Health. And we currently have the most amount of laboratory space available to companies coming in. The Biden administration actually awarded the state of Virginia to become a designated national hub for API manufacturing as part of the Build Back Better regional challenge to offset dependency on foreign markets during the pandemic. And we've had so much momentum in the biotech sector in particular that it's allowed us to welcome major investments from AstraZeneca in Eli Lilly in the past couple of months. So we're really trying to keep that momentum going And these are the types of projects that we are seeing the most of lately is like value chain consolidation, particularly, but not limited to the biotech industry. A lot of my colleagues have already highlighted how we could work together, and I have to say it's really more or less the same for the state of Virginia. So I don't want to repeat a whole lot of numbers to you, but maybe some key takeaways would be of value. So how would you work with us if you have a project for the US? We're here to meet you where you're at. I mean, no one state is the only fit for you. Every state just wants to be the best fit for you. Every state has a lot to offer, and Virginia is no exception. The earlier you're in contact with us, of course, the better, because that helps us build a strong relationship not only at the state level, but we can leverage our contacts at the federal level and the local level to make sure that your project is up and running as smoothly as possible. It's most beneficial to you that you come prepared with what you think you want to do. Of course, this can always change, and it usually does, but already having a clear picture of what you want to do and why, not only when it comes to site requirements and talent needs, but also your planned expected investment in how you plan to finance the project. This helps us know what we need to do to assist you the best that we can. As my colleagues have already said, you should really keep an open mind to where you're setting up. States love when there's competition, and you can actually work this to your advantage because it will make the states more motivated in the end to welcome you and potentially provide more incentives. Just really quickly, these are all of the languages that we speak natively out of our offices. We're conversational in a few more, but I think this really covers a lot of the bases of the markets that we are working in. And yeah, thank you again so much for the opportunity to present today. If you have any questions, I would be pleased to answer them and look forward to hearing from you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So, thank you to all the states that now we have seen both alignment and differences across the states, which help us to clarify the competitive dynamics discussed by Andrea and Marina. So also with different states and presentation, now we understand better the dynamics for the states. And to close the loop, and now I want to turn to the stage to Luca Leonardi, the CFO of Panaria Group in the US, who will share with us a first-hand CFO perspective on turning the US investment decision into really operational reality. So, Luca.
Thank you, Paolo. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Luca Leonardi. I'm a group CFO for Panaria Group USA. I think I'm going to try to give you, like as Paolo said, like a very practical, insight of our role here in the US. So our company, Panaria Group, is a global Italian ceramic tile company. We operate directly into like 6 different countries. And specifically in the US, we are a very fully integrated multi-channel model. So we have a manufacturing plant here in Kentucky, where I'm based off, and we are basically working through multiple sales channels and also through our own direct sales market. We control about 20 stores in the country in 11 different states. So we have nexus in 11 different states. Unfortunately, when I joined the company was we were not able to pick the state. So So because it was Panaria Group acquired Panaria Group USA about 20 years ago. So when I came on board, basically I was engaged to try to work on the workaround of the company. So, and taking what especially Andrea said, I was already envisioning myself as to be an architect of the turnaround and to the future growth. So this is what I consider. This is not rocket science, right? But this is what I consider, my pillars. I've been working in the US for about 15 years. So I will. This will be my recommendation for you to approach the US market and as a CFO to build a strong foundation, sustainable growth, and a very long-lasting value. So my 5 pillars are, people. As Andrea said, we need to interpret here a different role, a CFO role in the US model compared to the European, the Italian one. So first of all, you have to build your team, and we can see in the next slide what are also the challenges that are specifically in the US regarding recruiting and retaining, very, retaining talent. Processes, you need to be very efficient, and especially in our organizations, the process has to be, managed by true and solid ERP system and a treasury system, a centralized treasury system. Planning, as Andrea mentioned, you need to to budget and planning and reporting based on different accounting standards and different accounting principles we can see later. You have to set up very strong policy and procedures, looking at segregation on duties, standard operating procedures, the right governance, and we'll see also in the next slide. Provisioning is the last one, so making sure that you can be independent, in my opinion. This is our goal, to be independent from our headquarters, to ensure liquidity, access to capital, and also looking at what all the other speakers, by state, they went through. Make sure that you can access to all the incentives, the state, the federal, and the local incentives that are provided by the different organizations. I will try to be quick. So for the people, as I said, you have to try to build your right team. This is, the human capital is the most important, investment that you can make. And in the United States, I'm Italian compared to, my mother company. So we have to go through different challenges, especially that I had to went through, when I joined into the US. You have to go through cultural barriers, and so Andrea was talking sometimes a misalignment between the sister company and the mother company. So your role should be try to be a moderator and to try to deliver the message to the headquarters that the cultural barriers are strong, and we need to work together to try to mitigate and smooth all the cultural barriers. The turnover here in the United States compared to Italy is very, very high. So you need to, at least for us, so you need to be able to recruit and to retain your team in a very good way, motivating them, engage them all the time, because also, and building also a very clear infrastructure or procedure, because as you might know, in the US, the notice time are very, very short. You can lose an employee with a 14 days notice. So you have to be ready, to have everything in place to replace eventually the employee when he's leaving. And also compliance, as I mentioned before, we have Nexus in 11 different states. We have employees that are residing in more than 20 states. So we have very specific regulation by the state for compliance and also for OSHA, because our store, again, operates in multiple states. Processes. This is one of our pillar. When I came on board, why process matters, because you need to drive operation in a very efficient way. and to support the growth and controlling risk and cost. So the two main pillars out of those, in my opinion, are to build a very strong ERP system to be able to enable better planning and decision making, to automate workflows, and basically to improve data accuracy and support compliance across all the processes. We are a very complex organization, from the raw material purchasing to a production plan to like R&D to a distributions. We're working with the big boxes, so we got strong requirement on automation like EDI, electronic data interchange. And we got all the complexity regarding all the retail business, the credit cards, the walking customers, managing stores, managing inventory at the store level. So it's our organization is very complex. So we need to rely in procedures that are very organized and very stable for across all the processes. Another very important pillar that we were able to build are the treasury system. So we have an integrated treasury system with the ERP system and through our all the financial institutions. So we are able to manage all the financial risk and optimize the cash and manage the liquidity in a proper way. Planning is a big topic in the US, at least compared to Italy. So we are really focusing on budgeting. We are providing our headquarters our own top-down budget. So we are budgeting, reporting, and forecasting at the store level. So for us, the complexity is bigger because basically all our stores are considered like individual companies. So every time we are providing to our mother company multiple statements based on multiple accounting standards. So every month during our month-end close, we are closing our books, for consolidated the US operation, but also at the store level, based on the two main accounting principles. So we are closing through the US GAAP, the local accounting principle here, and also we are closing the books for our international financial reporting system, the IFRS, to be sent to our mother company for their consolidation process. In that planning, also another complexity is due to we have multiple accounting systems. For instance, we are managing inventory based on different systems, based on the US GAAP and based on the management system, and based on the international financial accounting requirement. So the planning also, another important key factor are the control of the value drivers, especially inventory receivables, that are driving, especially for us, the liquidity, and they are making, our cash flow a very, very important and strong point, to be independent compared to with our mother company, with our headquarters. Policy and procedure, as Andrea mentioned, the governance, the alignment with headquarters, and especially, having a strong ERP system and a standard operating procedure to be able to align all the operation across the organization, to be able to, to make sure that when, you got, some very high level of turnover, especially in some, entities, you're going to be able to continue to operate in a strong base and be able to recruit a talent when other people are leaving. Compliance, the complexity is due because of the difference between the federal and the state, the income taxes, the sales taxes, and also another important point that I would like to state in here is the business continuity, especially on our role as CFO. I have the information technology that reports to me. So we have to make sure to ensure that, the operation runs smoothly and, with continuity and without any disruptions. Also, another very important point is the segregation of duties, especially on the vendor, payables, and to the finance and the treasury. to make sure that you got a double approval and the specific workflow. This will help you to mitigate the risk and making sure that operations are running very smooth. Last but not least is the provisioning. Again, the goal is to be independent and aligned with the headquarters. So to be able to provide the company all the liquidity and the means to sustain the growth, and to be open to all the incentives that at the federal level, at the state level, and the local level you can have, as opportunity in the United States of America. So we got a very solid independent banking structure in here. We have like a very complex cash management on the daily and the monthly basis. In the US, you have very, very specific line of credit. One very important in the USA is called ABL, activity-based lending. This is a very common line of credit, but it's very specific here for the US. So if you are investing in the US and you're establishing an operation in the US, I will recommend you to explore such a kind of credit line. Build in trust with the lenders to support the growth, and also to risk management, in order to optimize capital, to establish stronger partnership, and to plan the future growth. So I know that it's been a little bit concise. I think we're gonna be able to share the presentation, and hopefully, you can ask some questions, and I will be very willing to answer all your questions that you might raise in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your insight, Luca. And we are coming to the end of this session. We are slightly over time, it's true, but I think in depth of the discussion was really worth it. So today the goal was to offer a practical roadmap about main execution risk, how state thinks, and what does it take from to move from the decision to reality that Luca mentioned before. And I would like to thank you all, and thank also everyone who joined us today. Bye.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.